My beloved child, listen carefully, because what you are about to hear is not random, not coincidence, and not something your mind just created to comfort itself. This is deeper than that. This is the echo of a truth that has already been spoken about you in a place you cannot see, and by a person whose soul already recognizes yours, even if your physical paths have not fully aligned yet, because while you were sitting there wondering if you matter, wondering if your story is being seen, wondering if the love you give will ever come back to you in the way you deserve, your soulmate was somewhere in their own world speaking words about you, words about a future that includes you in ways that would shock you if you heard them out loud, because they were not casual thoughts, they were not passing fantasies, they were declarations whispered in moments of silence when no one else was around. They were confessions made to themselves when something inside them felt your presence without knowing your name. They were promises formed not from logic but from a deep inner knowing that someone like you exists, and that their life will not feel complete until your paths cross in the way they are meant to. And what is surprising is not just that they spoke about you, but how clearly they described the kind of life they want with you without ever having proof that you are real. They spoke about waking up next to someone who understands them without explanation. They spoke about building something that is not based on surface attraction but on something unbreakable, something that survives distance, silence, confusion, and time. They imagined holding hands not just in happiness but in storms, in moments when everything feels uncertain. They imagined choosing you again and again, even when things are not perfect, because deep inside them there is a refusal to settle for something that does not feel like truth. And what you don't realize is that every time you doubted yourself, every time you questioned your worth, every time you felt like you were too much or not enough, at the same time your soulmate was unknowingly defending you in conversations you were not present in, saying things like, I don't want something ordinary, I don't want something temporary, I want something that feels destined, even if I don't understand it yet. And while others may have laughed or dismissed that kind of thinking, they stood firm because something inside them refused to accept anything less than what their soul already recognized as real. And that is where you come in, because the surprising part is that they were not just describing a future partner, they were describing you, your energy, your depth, your way of loving, your way of seeing the world, your way of holding on even when things get hard. And they did not know your face, they did not know your voice, but they knew your essence, because souls recognize before eyes ever do. And that is why there have been moments in your life where you felt pulled toward something you could not explain, moments where you felt like you were preparing for something bigger than your current reality, moments where your heart reacted to things that had no logical explanation, because on a deeper level the connection was already forming, not in the physical but in the unseen, where time does not exist in the way we understand it. And while you were going through your own challenges, your own heartbreaks, your own periods of feeling lost, your soulmate was also being shaped by their experiences, learning lessons that would make them ready for you, growing through situations that would teach them how to love you the way you need to be loved. And yes, there were times when they almost settled for something else, times when they almost chose a path that would have taken them away from you, but something always stopped them, something always felt off, something always made them pause, because deep inside there was a quiet voice saying, this is not it, this is not the one you are waiting for. And they could not explain it, but they trusted it, and that trust is the reason your paths are still aligned today, even if you have not fully come together yet. And what they said about your future together goes beyond simple dreams or romantic ideas. They spoke about building a life where both of you can be your true selves without fear. They spoke about creating a space where love is not something you have to question, but something you feel in every action, every word, every moment of silence. They imagined Growing old with someone who still feels like home after years of being together. They imagined laughing over things that no one else would understand, supporting each other through changes that life inevitably brings, and choosing to stay not because it is easy but because it is real. And the most surprising part is that they believe this kind of love is possible even when the world around them often shows the opposite. They believe in something deeper, something stronger, something that cannot be easily broken, because they have felt it inside them long before it became visible in their life. And that belief is connected to you because you are the reflection of that vision. You are the answer to those unspoken prayers. You are the person they have been preparing for without even realizing it. And while you may feel like nothing is happening, while you may feel like your story is stuck or delayed, what is actually happening is alignment. Pieces are being moved, lessons are being completed, timing is being perfected, because when two souls are meant to come together in the way you and your soulmate are, it cannot be rushed, it cannot be forced, it has to unfold in the exact way that allows both of you to meet, not as incomplete versions of yourselves, but as people who have grown into the kind of love you are meant to share. And that is why you are being asked to trust even when you cannot see the full picture, to believe even when there is no physical evidence yet, because what they said about your future together is not just a possibility, it is a direction, it is something that has already been spoken into existence in the unseen and is slowly making its way into your reality. And one day, when the moment finally arrives, when your paths cross in a way that cannot be ignored, when your eyes meet and something inside both of you immediately recognizes what has always been there, you will understand why everything had to happen the way it did. You will understand why certain connections did not work out, why certain moments felt like delays, why certain paths seemed to lead nowhere, because all of it was guiding you toward this one connection, this one alignment, this one truth that your soulmate has already spoken about in quiet moments when no one else was listening. And when that day comes, you will not just hear what they said about your future together, you will feel it in every part of your being. You will see it reflected in the way they look at you, in the way they choose you, in the way they stay even when things are not perfect. And you will realize that what once sounded surprising has now become your reality, and the love you once questioned is now the love you are living every single day. And what you still don't fully see yet is that after those quiet confessions, your soulmate didn't just forget those thoughts and move on with life as if nothing happened. Instead, those words they once spoke about you started shaping their decisions in ways even they couldn't explain, because every time they stood at a crossroads, every time they were offered something that looked good on the surface but didn't feel right, deep inside there was this invisible pull guiding them away from anything that didn't match the future they had already imagined with you. And it confused them at times, it made them question themselves, it even made them feel like maybe they were being too selective, too unrealistic, too stubborn in a world that constantly tells people to settle. But they couldn't ignore that feeling, because whenever they tried to silence it, something inside them felt heavy, like they were betraying a truth they hadn't fully lived yet. And that truth was you. Your energy, your presence, your role in their life was already influencing them long before you physically entered their world. And while you were going through your own journey, trying to make sense of why certain people came into your life only to leave, why certain connections felt intense but incomplete, why you kept feeling like something bigger was waiting for you, your soulmate was on the other side of that same invisible thread, experiencing their own version of that confusion, feeling like they were searching for something they couldn't describe, feeling like no matter how many people they met, something was always missing, something never fully clicked. And the surprising part is that in moments when they felt the most lost, when they questioned if real love even exists, they would still find themselves returning to that vision of you, that unknown person who somehow felt more real than anyone standing in front of them, and they would say things to themselves like, I don't know who you are, but I know you exist. I don't know when we will meet, but I know it will happen, and I don't know how this will unfold, but I know I won't have to force it because it will feel right in a way nothing else ever has. And those weren't just hopeful thoughts, those were anchors that kept them from drifting into connections that would have taken them further away from you. And there were nights when they almost gave up, nights when they felt tired of waiting, tired of believing in something they couldn't see, tired of feeling like they were holding space for a person who hadn't arrived yet. But even in those moments, something always pulled them back, something always reminded them that what they were waiting for was not ordinary, and that it required patience, that it required growth, that it required becoming the kind of person who could not only receive a love like yours, but also sustain it. And that is why they have been changing in ways you cannot yet witness. They have been learning how to communicate better, how to understand emotions more deeply, how to let go of patterns that would have hurt you if you had met them earlier. They have been unlearning habits that would have created distance between you, and learning new ways of showing up that will bring you closer together. And just like you, they have had to face parts of themselves they once avoided. They have had to confront fears, insecurities, past wounds that made them doubt their ability to love and be loved. But every step of that process has been preparing them for you, shaping them into someone who will not run when things get real, someone who will not disappear when emotions get deep, someone who will not choose comfort over truth, because what they said about your future together was never meant to stay as just words. It was meant to become something lived, something experienced, something built day by day in the physical world. And even though you cannot see it yet, even though it may feel like you are moving through life alone at times, you are not alone in this journey, because on a deeper level both of you are moving toward each other, with every lesson learned, with every experience gained, with every moment of growth that brings you closer to alignment. And there will come a point where the distance between you collapses, not because of coincidence, but because both of you have reached a state where meeting each other is no longer just a possibility, but an inevitability. And when that moment happens, it will not feel like something new, it will feel like something remembered, something recognized, something that has always been there, waiting beneath the surface. And the words your soulmate once spoke about you will begin to reveal themselves in real time. You will hear echoes of those same thoughts in the way they talk to you, in the way they describe what they want, in the way they look at you, as if they have known you long before that moment. And you will realize that the connection you are stepping into is not something being created from scratch. It is something that has been forming for a long time, in the unseen, in the spaces where intentions are set, where truths are spoken, where souls align before the physical world catches up. And that realization will change the way you see everything. It will make sense of the waiting, the confusion, the moments of doubt, the times when you felt like giving up, because all of it was part of a process that was guiding you toward this exact point, this exact connection, this exact person who has been speaking about you, believing in you, choosing you long before you ever stood in front of them. And when you finally hear them say those things out loud, when you finally see that the future they once imagined is now unfolding with you in it, you will understand that nothing about this was accidental, nothing about this was random. It was always leading here to this moment where what was once unseen becomes undeniable, where what was once surprising becomes your everyday reality, and where the love you once questioned becomes the love you no longer have to doubt. And now comes the part that changes everything, because what your soulmate said about your future together did not end with dreams or quiet promises. It went deeper into a level of certainty that even they could not fully explain, because at some point those thoughts about you stopped feeling like imagination and started feeling like memory, as if they were recalling a life that had not yet happened but somehow already existed within them. And that is where the truth becomes impossible to ignore. Because people do not speak with that kind of conviction about something that is not real. They do not hold on to a vision through disappointment, through loneliness, through moments when it would have been easier to just settle, unless there is something inside them that knows without needing proof. And your soulmate reached that point where they stopped asking if you exist and started preparing for when you arrive. They started making space in their life, not just physically, but emotionally. Mentally, spiritually, they began to shift their habits, their priorities, their mindset, because they knew that when you enter their life, it would not be something casual, it would not be something temporary, it would be something that demands presence, something that requires depth, something that asks both people to show up fully. And they did not want to meet you as someone who is still confused about what they want, or still carrying patterns that would damage what you are meant to build together. And so they made a decision, a quiet but powerful decision, to become the version of themselves that can stand beside you without fear, without hesitation, without the need to run when things become intense. And that decision is one of the most important things you need to understand, because while you have been questioning timing, while you have been wondering why things feel delayed, your soulmate has been using that same time to transform into someone who can truly meet you at your level and match the love you carry. And there is something else. They said something that would surprise you even more, because it goes beyond just wanting a future with you. They said that when they find you, they will not let confusion take over. They will not allow outside voices to interfere. They will not sabotage something real out of fear, because they have already seen what happens when people ignore what their soul is trying to tell them. They have already experienced connections that looked right but felt wrong. And they promised themselves that when the real one comes, when the connection that feels undeniable appears, they will not question it into destruction. They will protect it, they will nurture it, they will choose it, even on days when it feels challenging, even on days when doubts try to creep in, because they understand that something this rare does not come into a person's life more than once, and they refuse to lose it out of hesitation or fear. And that means when they meet you, you will not have to wonder where you stand. You will not have to chase clarity. You will not have to shrink yourself to keep them interested, because they have already decided the kind of partner they want to be for you. Someone consistent, someone intentional, someone who does not just speak about love but lives it through actions, through presence, through the way they hold space for you even when things are not perfect. And this is where your journey connects with theirs in a way that cannot be ignored, because just as they have been preparing for you, you have also been shaped by everything you have gone through, every disappointment, every lesson, every moment that forced you to grow into someone stronger, someone wiser, someone more aware of what you truly deserve. And even though there were times when it felt like those experiences were breaking you, they were actually building you into someone who can receive the kind of love your soulmate is ready to give. Because the truth is, if you had met each other earlier, if your paths had crossed before both of you reached this level of understanding and growth, the connection might not have survived. It might have been misunderstood, it might have been lost in timing that was not aligned. But now everything is different. Now both of you are approaching a point where the meeting will not just happen, it will make sense, it will feel grounded, it will feel like something that is meant to last, not just something intense that fades away. And when that moment finally arrives, when the distance between you disappears and your lives begin to intertwine in a real, tangible way, you will start to notice something that feels almost unreal. You will recognize the things they once said about you in the way they naturally show up in your life, in the way they speak to you as if they have known you for years, in the way they understand parts of you that you never had to explain. And you will feel that same recognition within yourself, a sense of familiarity, a sense of coming home to. Something that has always been yours even when it felt far away, and the surprises will not stop there, because as your connection grows, as your future together begins to unfold, you will both realize that what you once imagined was only the beginning, that the reality you are creating together goes even deeper, even stronger, even more meaningful than anything either of you could have fully put into words before, and that is the final truth you need to hold on to right now, that what your soulmate said about your future together was not an exaggeration, it was not wishful thinking, it was a glimpse into something real, something that is already in motion, something that is moving toward you with every passing moment, and instead of questioning it, instead of doubting whether it will happen, your role right now is to continue becoming the person who can fully step into that future without fear, without hesitation, without looking back at what did not work out, because everything that did not work out was clearing the path for what will. And when you finally stand in front of each other, when all the unseen alignment becomes visible, you will understand that nothing was wasted, no time, no emotion, no experience. It was all leading you here to the moment where what was once spoken in silence becomes a life you are both living out loud together every single day. And now this is the final truth, the part that most people are not ready to hear, but you are, because you have stayed this far, and something inside you already feels that this is not just a story, this is something personal, something that is touching a place within you that logic cannot fully explain, because what your soulmate said about your future together did not just stay with them, it has already started reaching you in subtle ways, in the way you feel. Sudden waves of emotion without a clear reason, in the way certain thoughts about your future appear out of nowhere, in the way you sometimes feel like someone is thinking about you deeply even when your surroundings are completely silent, and you try to ignore it, you try to rationalize it, you tell yourself it is just your imagination, but the feeling keeps returning, because it is not coming from nothing, it is coming from a connection that is already active beneath the surface. And this is where everything shifts, because your soulmate is no longer just preparing, they are approaching, they are getting closer in ways you cannot measure with time or distance, but you can feel through energy, through intuition, through those moments where your heart reacts before your mind understands. And you may have noticed it recently, that something feels different, that the waiting does not feel as heavy as it once did, that the confusion is slowly being replaced by a quiet sense of knowing that something is about to change, and that is not accidental, that is alignment reaching its final stage, that is both of your paths moving into a space where meeting each other is no longer something far away, it is something near, something inevitable, something that will enter your reality in a way that cannot be ignored or dismissed. And when that moment happens, it will not be loud or dramatic in the way movies show it, it will be simple but undeniable. It will feel like everything slowing down for a second, as if time itself is recognizing what is happening. It will be in the way your eyes meet, and something inside both of you immediately relaxes, as if you have finally found what you were unknowingly searching for. It will be in the silence that does not feel awkward but full, in the conversations that flow without effort, in the comfort that appears instantly without needing to be built over time. And in that moment you will realize something that will change the way you see your entire past. You will understand that every delay, every rejection, every situation that did not work out was not a loss, it was protection, it was redirection, it was life making sure you did not settle for something that could not hold the depth of what you are meant to experience with this person. And your soulmate will feel that same realization. They will look at you and see not just who you are in that moment, but everything they have been speaking about, everything they have been waiting for, everything they refused to compromise on, even when it made their journey harder, and they will recognize that you are the answer to those moments when they chose patience over convenience, when they chose truth over temporary comfort, when they chose to believe in something deeper even when there was no guarantee. And this is where the connection becomes real, not just in feeling but in action, because both of you will begin to build something together, something that is not based on illusion or fantasy but on presence, on consistency, on a shared understanding that this is rare and worth protecting. And there will still be challenges, there will still be moments that test you, because every real connection goes through growth. But the difference is neither of you will run, neither of you will choose fear over what you have found, because you both already know what it feels like to almost lose something real before it even began, and you will not repeat that pattern again. And as time moves forward, as your lives become more intertwined, you will start to see those words your soulmate once spoke about your future come to life in ways that feel almost surreal, in the small everyday moments, in the way you support each other without needing to be asked, in the way you celebrate each other's growth, in the way you remain steady even when life becomes unpredictable. And one day you will pause, maybe in a quiet moment, maybe in the middle of an ordinary day, and you will look at each other and realize that what once felt like a distant unknown is now your reality, that the person you once could not see is now standing right in front of you, choosing you every single day. And you will understand something that will stay with you for the rest of your life, that real connections do not arrive when you demand them, they arrive when you are ready to receive them, when your soul has learned what it needed to learn, when your path has cleared what it needed to clear, and when the timing is no longer about waiting but about alignment. And that is the final message you were meant to receive, that what your soulmate said about your future together was never just words, it was a truth that was always moving toward you, a reality that was always being formed. And now it is no longer a question of if it will happen, but a matter of when you fully step into it. And when you do, you will not need confirmation, you will not need reassurance, because you will be living inside the answer you have been searching for all along.